So today we're going to talk about a medical procedure that has been somewhat demonized in our culture in some areas. Many people, especially those who live in the cities and the urban areas, somewhat have accepted the procedure of the cesarean procedure as an option for birth. But in many other communities, areas, and religious beliefs, they still shy away from this procedure, thinking it's demonic, is unethical, or it's even anti-spiritual, or what is it, it's not
really godly.
It's not godly, thank you. And that's the conversation today, because this show is not for everybody. This particular show is for those who still have that thinking. And we're hoping that our conversation today will shed more light on these procedures and hear from others who have lost their loved ones as a result of some of these beliefs, cultural thoughts, and these limiting beliefs that stops us from having children. Aside from cesarean options, there's now the new one of surrogacy. Still people still shy away from surrogacy, saying, that's really not my child, So it's a conversation we have to keep having to reorientate the minds of Nigerians on what these procedures are and understand those who have something against it. It's always good for us to understand their perspective and then see how we can reason together. You can share your thoughts with us this morning on 081-270-53687, 091-390-7694. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweet. I would like to hear this morning from those who still have the belief that cesarean operations are ungodly, those who believe that surrogacy is not a godly procedure, it's not a godly process. We'd like to hear your thoughts and perspective on this so that we can reason together and have a more wholesome conversation on these things. We have stories of people losing their lives.
So as I said, I don't think that we should add surrogacy to CS. This CS in its own, there are two different stories. Dr. Perkins on Twitter said that he's a doctor, that CS is a life-saving procedure, and is calling out pastors who are making women lose their children by telling them lies that God will ask you on your dying bed. He also said that doing CS doesn't make you less of a woman, having CS doesn't make you a weakling, having CS doesn't make you inferior. Stop demonizing CS, which is cesarean section, which is an operative way of helping to protect the life of the child as well as the mother when during childbirth and vaginal childbirth cannot take place. And I've heard a very, very sad story of someone who was in her 40s, who has waited for over 10 years to have a child, and then she got pregnant. And that God did a divine conception. We waited for so many years, and at her delivery date, she couldn't give birth naturally, and they urged her to do CS. And the pastor said, if God got you pregnant, God is going to see you through. Don't lose faith. Hold on. Well, the sad truth is she lost her life as well as the baby also died. Now, that's an extreme case. And there are places, there are exceptions to that rule where some people escape and they hold on and they're able to push through. But data is that many children die because they've been left in labor for too long. And that's the reason there is a process called cesarean section to help ensure that while the labor is going on and the woman can't push through, we can use a surgery to help. And it is sad that some some sections of religion organization choose to create something called, a word called Hebrew women. And they've turned it into, if you birth like an Hebrew woman, you don't cry, you don't do anything, like you just pushed and boom, the baby came out. And only those that did go through giving birth through that process are children of God and they have a miracle.
Let me come to Miriam here because I want us to understand, where do we draw the line between faith and science? Because I have faith. I trust that God, just like the example you used, God helped me to this point to have this child, to even be pregnant after I waited. That same God should be able to help me push through. That's the belief many people go with. So when do we now draw the line between my faith, my strong faith, and science?
Who knows? I just know what I know. And the story is, I know of someone, and he used to be my driver a long time ago. And I remember one particular day, we just had him in the compound. He had fallen down. He was rolling all over the floor. And we ran out. What is happening? He said that his wife is in hospital. We knew that she was pregnant, but I think she was rushed to the hospital earlier than her due date, and he was at work. And the doctor is saying that she needs to get to CS. And we were like, okay, what's happening? He said he had to call his mom first to ask her permission. And the mom said, never, never, never. They don't do CS in their, in their family. I remember my husband saying, you are the man of the house. You will take charge. You want your wife to leave, right? And everything. Anyway, he left. Thankfully, by the time we came back, mother and child were good, but he was quite silent on what eventually happened, whether it was through natural birth or... And then this Hebrew woman phase, I remember when I was pregnant, I had my very first pregnancy, my friend had a prayer that she sent to me, and it was about the Hebrew woman prayer to help you through that time. And I remember my mom going through it, and she says, maybe to educate me, she says, you know that it's okay to have CS. She says even some people opt for it, even if it's not an emergency. It's just another option that you have. And I'm grateful because right now, I'm recognizing that poverty is not only poverty of money, material things. It's poverty of knowledge. Do you understand? There's poverty of exposure. There are no people around you that can give you the honest, factual truth about situations. And so people are caught up in this, constantly deciding, am I going against my faith? Am I going against my culture? Am I going against our family legacy and name over health? So I think the conversation has to be that your health is important, and that the God that has brought you this far, He's the one that also equipped the medical professionals and scientists with this knowledge that they have to help Christians, Muslims, people of belief in this situation. It is a thing to rejoice about. And so what I would say, maybe in churches and mosques, we should talk about people who have had to go through this way of giving birth and make it a testimony as well, and so that people who happen to accept it easier.
Let me, because one of the other factors, YK, is the fact that people share these testimonies, and we all hear it. Oh, I was in labor, the doctor wanted to do CS, I prayed to God, I trusted God, and I pushed through, and the baby came. And we did not have to do CS. So when you hear that kind of testimony, you hold on to it and say, if Sister Mary can push through, even though the doctor wanted to do CS, that's same God. So that's why I say, how do we, because we hear it all the time, and when you hold on to somebody's testimony, how do we therefore manage understanding what somebody's experience is and deciding objectively what your experience should be? What do you think, YK?
Well, I think that I would blame... I don't want to blame anybody, but I have to say it here that, you see, if you have not taken in, if you have not carried a child before, you do not have the right to advise a woman who is carrying a child how she should deliver.
That's one.
You're right, absolutely.
Because you are not even raised that way. You've never been pregnant. So what value are you to the person that you are advising? You have no value.
Spiritual value.
You are not, because if the person dies, you will continue living your life, or if she loses the baby, like this particular case that Dr. Pekin is talking about, she is alive. But she's alive to the fact that she will never have a child again. And that the only child that she had died. Because some irresponsible person, because I don't want to blame, because there are some pastors who will actually not do that. Yes. They will tell you, no, follow the doctor, because I'm not a doctor now.
Yeah.
What gives me the right?
Yeah.
What God has sent you to do is to pray for a person, not to advise a person.
Medically advise, yeah.
And you're not and you see, again, I will say here that a lot of doctors as well, they need to be examining these patients properly, because you will know when a woman is going to have complications at childbirth.
That's why antenatals are important, where your doctor is constantly reviewing the baby and letting you know this baby is getting big, or we're likely to open you up to bring this child out. And at that time, but sometimes they do.
Yeah, so I think the conversation.
My own personal experience was when I was up to 36 weeks or 38 weeks, they said, oh, the baby's head had engaged. So when the baby's head has engaged, so at that time, from that time, I was waiting for the baby to come out any moment, because that means the baby's head is... Then I carried 1 week above the time, and then I go into hospital. I'm in labor for like 12 hours. Then the doctor comes in and says, the baby has turned.
Breached.
It's breached. Now, a baby's head that has engaged,
Yes.
How can it
breach?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So, if I was a religious person, I say, no.
It's a spiritual matter. Let me pray.
I will start praying. I was even so weak at that point.
Right.
When they suggested CS, I said, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know, and so that's how I had a cesarean. But I never envisaged a cesarean child birth because they didn't prepare me for that. So doctors too should start to
Prepare
that.
But
Yeah,
you
so
know,
I
this
got
conversation,
minds.
this conversation is about the fact that pastors make it look like any intervention is not God. And
Not all
science,
pastors.
some pastors, some pastors. And science is God-given ideas. Like the science of, if a pastor can use a phone and does not feel that this phone that can make you talk to somebody in America is demonic, then a pastor should allow women to go through CS, because just the same way a phone is not demonic, CS is not ungodly. Just the same way TV is not ungodly, your CS is not ungodly. Yeah. Science is a God-given creative solution to problems that happen to us.
We've seen doctrines change. Remember back when we were growing up,
when they say TV is evil, now people are broadcasting on TV.
Now,
the mic that they are using to talk
technology.
Is technology.
So as I said, today's show is not for every Nigerian, because many people do have new perspectives to this conversation, but we're discussing this specifically for those who are still have the mentality that cesarean section is ungodly, and where they have spiritual leaders or even society influencing their decisions when it comes to childbirth. Now, Miriam, let me let you add some more.
Yes, so let's talk about the concept of the Hebrew woman. We're talking about this during the break. And the concept of the Hebrew woman is that it's a woman who is able to give birth without showing any pain, without reflecting any of the pain that she's going through that would come naturally to a woman that's giving birth. And if we remember the story of the Hebrew woman during the time of the slavery of the Jews in Egypt at the time, she had to hide her childbirth because there was like a ban. You know, they knew that their children would be killed, and so they were trying to protect their children that were being born at the time or taken out, you know, to slavery. And they had to hide that they were having children. So we cannot use that now as something to show that, to depict strength. It was women that were forced, that were put under undue pressure and stress. But we are living we are living under the new covenant. You're also living in Nigeria where there are blessings and everything around you. You can walk into the hospital, there are doctors and nurses all around you, people waiting on hand to help you. The Egyptian women at that time could have their children, you know, while being pampered and cared for and then celebrated. The Hebrew woman, after having that child, she had to also deny that child the celebration that came with childbearing, you know. So for us, I don't think that Hebrew woman concept works for us today. If it's to say that, I know that over time also it's been changed to mean that you would not go through too much stress. But I think Nigerians are taking the fact that it means that you would not need any form of intervention, and that does not work. So let's just accept that God has brought us here. God has brought us into the land and time of abundance. He has given us options right now, and we should use it and praise him for doing it.
Let me take this call from Sheyi. Good morning, Sheyi. Are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
You're live. Go ahead, please. You're live. You're listening to your TV. Go ahead, please.
Oh, good morning.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Morayo and the lady.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
How are you today?
Very well.
Morning.
I just want to contribute in my own way.
Please.
By the grace of God, I'm a pastor. In my church, Living Spring Chapel, we preach both ministration and medication to people. We let them know that God can heal you by miracle, and God can heal you through medical practitioners. We see the same God. So this time around, people should come up and know that either they go through CS or by normal delivery, it's still the heart of God. That's why the Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So people should come up and reason, not condemning the cesarean section, or saying if you are not delivering normal delivery, is not the heart of God. Both are the heart of God. We should have right sense of thinking. We should not allow any pastor to destroy our lives by our own personal ignorance. We should seek for knowledge.
Right.
We should seek for knowledge.
Thank you, Pastor. You see, I also want to put in, where does government come in here? Because you see, in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, you know, a fetus, a woman decides, okay, abortion rights, maybe you can time to take out your child for one reason or the other. But once is a full human being, that child has rights. A full birth, a full child 9 months, after 9 months, is a full human being that has rights. So sometimes your belief cannot supersede what the government is saying, that, listen, that child deserves to come out. And if the doctor is saying that the child's life is at risk, the government is defending the child to come out in a certain way. So, you know, in other countries where you see they defend the child, but here it's still left to you as a parent to decide, do I want CS? So sometimes you compel the parents to, you have to do CS for the sake of that child because that child has to live. You know, so can government also review some of our laws to protect these unborn children from dying as a result of religious preferences or beliefs?
I don't think you can legislate that kind of thing. People would go behind the scene or say that they will hide in their houses because of their faith. I think that the best way is to just spread information. It is a knowledge thing, so as to change their ideology. And I think another subtle way of doing this is we should start sharing testimonies that I had this child through, you know, this was a CS baby. Or you'll be like, I did IVF 5 times, and the 6th IVF took, and then with a CS, children. We now have quadruplets, and that is a testimony. And people would clap and celebrate God because the truth is many IVFs fail. Yeah. So IVF working is a miracle. CS, people still die. So the fact that the CS worked for you is still a miracle. Fantastic. So we must celebrate, we must start celebrating all shades of how science intervention is still God blessing us.
I know you guys didn't want us to go into surrogacy, but maybe another day. Yeah. Because it's still a testimony. If somebody helps me to carry a child, which I'm unable to, it's still a testimony.
It's full adoption.
Adoption is equally a testimony. So I think we should normalize these testimonies. And when you give testimony, don't give all this nice...
God did it.
God did it.
I know of a couple that adopted twins.
Nice.
You know? And the funny thing is, when the twins, they were a boy and a girl, when they started to grow up,
they looking like them.
The boy looked like the dad, and the girl looked like the mother. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
I have a story like that. But let me take this off. Elijah Subara. Good morning, Elijah Subara. Are you there?
Moray, I'm there. I've been here for long.
Sorry about that, Elijah. I do apologize.
All right, okay. Good morning, Moray and Jadis.
Yes.
Good morning.
Moray, the point you are discussing today is very, very germane. Very, very, very important. And it goes beyond, discussing this on television. How many women of Nigeria is watching you now? You see, the topic is so important that I knew a lot of women have lost their lives, in the process of this issue. You understand? Yeah. So I am advocating that, an NGO or whoever that is in medical line should take it as a responsibility to convert, based on this purpose. Look, like Topper said, technology is knowledge from God. You understand? I'm a Muslim. You remember those days when our own fathers is going to Mecca. They go by Sahara Desert. Some of them die on the road. You understand? Because of the distance. But now technology has come. People go by plane. You understand? They go even and come back. You understand? That is the importance of technology. You understand? So be it. You understand? This issue of cesarean is a technology, achievement given by God to safeguard women. You understand? That is why I said it go beyond advocating on this TV. I will appeal for the Minister of Health to start campaigning for women, because most of them have been polluted. Like you said, some of the pastors will commit them if you do this to that. And look at the television we are watching now. You understand?
Oh, Elijah, we lost that. So he's very correct. Yes,
yeah, so there's something that Waike said in the beginning when she says, if you've never had a child, you have no right to sort of legislate or advise me on how I should have my child. But then we also know that the gatekeepers of some of these things are women themselves. So like I told you the story of my former staff. He had to call his mom to ask her permission. So this is not a woman that was having that child, but she's determining for a woman in labor how she should have her child. So we also need to talk to women and educate them, and then the places that they get their education from. So I feel that the government is doing its best, making sure we have hospitals where you go for your antenatal classes. There are people there, government workers that are there to educate us on what is healthy and what, you know, and what's available for Nigerians. But we're talking about, I like that angle where you said that maybe government should legislate it if it has to do with protecting the life of the woman or the child. I really do think that government should look into legislating it, because our exposure to education is diverse. And we have a country, whether we like it or not, millions of uneducated people, millions of out-of-school people, millions of, you know, huge illiteracy. So a lot of things government would have to legislate until we sort of catch up. That is why when we talk about education, this is what we're talking about. If people are well educated, if they're well exposed, they will understand the things that are healthy and that's for their well-being.
Okay, so we have to wrap up. I was going to say I had a story, because I have a friend, actually, who adopted a child many years ago. And the child is probably like 13 years, and she looks exactly like my friend. Like, you would never know. I can't even mention it because I don't know. I'm not sure how many people know. But they look exactly alike. I don't know if there's a medical reason to this, but eventually, eventually, this shouldn't look like. So we should stop demonizing adoption.
Yeah.
I think when you stay together, you start to...
Is it the mannerisms that make it look like?
You get the mannerisms, then I think your faces start to... Like when you see a couple who have been together for 50 years, you see that they look alike. So I think there is some science to it that when you stay together, if it's your dog, you stay with
You might look like that.
No, you tend to look like a dog eventually. Yeah, there's a man. I've seen that. It's absolutely correct.
That's really out of our topic, but then...
We got to wrap up with this. But I think, in a nutshell, just like Alhaji Subera said, we can't stop this conversation here. I know it sounds funny and ludicrous to some people because it's a no-brainer. But to many, millions of Nigerians, till today, still believe that cesarean section is ungodly and should not be done. So we need to continually reorientate, especially those who are not as exposed as we are. So we're talking to those, your drivers, as you said, people who are around you, the community. There are people around that actually do believe that this is demonic. So please,
I had a cesarean, and I don't think I'm any worse for it.
Yeah. No. In fact, you're quite hot for it.
Oh, that's true. You
I had two cesarean. My first child was natural. The second, I had the twins. I couldn't even twins. But I cut them open and just bring them out, you know. And the second, the third one, they said, listen, Auntie, you'll be cut open. You might as well just cut open again. Please go ahead.
I had
you had a cesarean?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So you're natural, it means?
That's the word. So I was careful not to use natural because we always say if you're normal birth, they will say it's natural birth.
It's natural now, it's not science.
It's natural.
Natural but not normal.
Yeah.
No, not normal. Natural versus science.
Okay.
Natural is
natural. Okay, so I had natural birth. Yeah. And I was praying against CS. Let me just confess.
So maybe
I was one of those that I had my confession. I would not have CS. I would give them like Hebrew women.
Had that. They told us.
They told me and they gave me prayer for that. I prayed it and I was testifying in church that it was natural.
And you didn't get that prayer book on Hebrew women.
You're not in Nigeria.
Well, I didn't get it. I do YK.
You're not in the church.
If you had gotten it,
I'll be shocked.
So we are all evolving.
Yes.
We're all learning and we're knowing that some of these things.
Are.
That's